everyone, it's Sarah and welcome to my crochet channel. Today's video I'm going to show you how to make this super easy ear warmer. Now it's made with the same yarn as our turtleneck cow was made the other day, and I had some of this yarn left and I thought it would be an awesome idea to make a matching ear warmer to help keep us warm, of course. This is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. To make the Dreamy ear warmer, you're going to need about 2 ounces of a bulky number 5 yarn. And I'm going to be using my leftover Dreamy stripes from Red Heart, and it is a bulky number 5. And like I said, you'll need about 2 ounces to make it. It is a one size fits most, but I will explain to you how easy it is to adjust the band to fit just about any size head. We're stitching again with our K-hook, and the K-hook is a 6.50 millimeter crochet hook. You'll need a needle for weaving in ends, and of course you'll need your scissors. We're going to begin with a slip knot, and then we're going to chain 10. Now make sure this initial 10 chains is a little bit loose. We're going to be stitching the ear warmer from one end to the other and then put those 2 ends together. And we want to make sure they're going to line up. And if this is too tightly stitched, it might not fit well. So we want to make sure that's just a little bit loose. We're going to begin by stitching a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. There's our first one, there's our second. We're going to go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. And then we'll stitch 1 single crochet in each of the chains across. And this is going to give us 9 single crochets because we began stitching in the second chain from the hook. We're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to be stitching for the remainder of this project in the back loops. When you look at the top of your stitches, you see that there are stitches on this side and there are stitches on the back side. We're going to be stitching in these stitches on the back side. The front side is always the one that's facing you, and the back is the side that's facing away. So we're going to go right in that first stitch because our chain 1 did not count as a stitch and doesn't throughout this project either. So we'll go in the back loop of that first single crochet, and then we'll do this all the way across. And you'll notice that there'll be ridges and indentions. And that's what gives this particular pattern its super stretchiness. Chain 1 and turn. Now what we're going to be doing for the next 8 rows is repeating row 2. 1 single crochet in each of the single crochets across, stitching in the back loops only. And we'll do this up through row 10 so that we have 10 rows. I've stitched my 10 rows, and one way to help keep track of your rows is to count by 2s. You'll notice that each row there is a ridge and then an indentation for row 2. And so you can count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And that tells you you have 10 rows. All right, now for row 11, we're going to increase at the beginning of this row and at the end of this row. Because we have 9 single crochets, we're going to increase to 11. So we're still stitching in the back loops only, but we're going to put 2 in this first back loop. So we'll go in, pull up a loop just like we normally do, and stitch our single crochet. Then we'll stitch a second single crochet right in that same stitch. Then we'll stitch across. Whoops. There we go. Get in that loop. It's fuzzy. Didn't want to go in. Alrighty. So we stitched across those 7 stitches. And now we're to the last stitch. And we're going to put 2 single crochets, still stitching in that back loop, in that last stitch. That was a little bit funny. Alright. So now we went from 9 single crochets to 11. We're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to repeat what we've done on the previous rows. We're just going to have 2 extra stitches, 1 on each end. So we'll go right in that first stitch and stitch a single crochet, and then we'll just stitch 1 single crochet in each stitch across. So we're not increasing on this row, only on the 11th row. And this is what causes the shape of the ear warmer to move out so that it covers the top of our head and our ears and keeps us warm. Now I'm on that last stitch, and I'm just going to stitch 1, chain 1, and turn. And so it's done exactly the same. We just have an extra stitch on each end that we added, and so instead of having 9 single crochets, we now have 11. And we're going to repeat this up through row 20. So we had 10 rows of 9 single crochets, and we're going to have 10 rows of 11 single crochets. So we'll place a single crochet in the back loop of that first single crochet, and in each single crochet across, chain 1, and repeat up through row 20. This way we have 10 rows with 11 single crochets. I have crocheted up through row 20. I have 10 rows, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, with 9 single crochets in each row, and then I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 rows with 11. Now we're going to increase again. We're going to increase up to 13 single crochets. So we'll do like we did and stitch 2 single crochets in the first back loop of the first single crochet. Then we'll stitch across, stitching 1 in each. Then, when we get to the last single crochet, we'll stitch 2 in it as well. And that way we've increased from 11 single crochets to 13. And we want to put that second one in there. So we have 13 single crochets. And again, we're continuing to work in our back loops. And this is just going to make it just a little bit wider for the top of the head. Now, this is where I want to talk about size. This ear warmer will fit about a 20 to 22 inch head because it is going to be very stretchy. But if you want to make it smaller, this next section you can do less rows. And if you want to make it bigger, you can do more rows. Just make sure that you measure as you go. Alright, so we're going to begin with 1 single crochet in each back loop of each single crochet across. And again, we'll have 13 single crochets because we had increased at the beginning and end of the previous row. There we go. Now chain one and turn, and you can see how that is flaring out even more. And so what we're going to do is we're going to repeat this for 24 rows so that we have 26 rows with 13 single crochets in the back loop of each row. So we have 10 with 9, we have 10 with 11, and we're going to have 26 with 13. And like I said, make sure you measure as you go, because if it's going to be too big, you can add less rows in this section. So we're going to repeat these 2 rows for 24 more rows so that we have a total of 26 with 13 in each row. I've completed those 26 rows with 13 single crochets in the back loops. And just so you can get an idea of how it looks, here's our 10 with 9, then our 10 with 11, and then 26 with 13 single crochets on each row. So now we're going to begin to decrease. So we chain 1 and turn. We're still working in the back loop, but we're going to decrease back down to 11 single crochets. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in the first back loop and pull up a loop. Then we'll go in the next one and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook instead of the 2. Yarn over and go through all 3 of those. And what we've done is we've decreased to 1 from 2. All right, then we'll stitch across, stitching in the back loops, of course. Until we reach those last 2 single crochets. And then we're going to stitch the last 2 together. It's called a single crochet decrease, or stitching 2 single crochets together. So we'll go in, pull up a loop, we'll go in, pull up a loop. Again, there's 3 loops. Yarn over and go through all 3. So now we've decreased from the 13 to 11. Chain 1 and turn. All right, we're not going to decrease anymore. We're going to just stitch across, stitching 1 single crochet in each of those 11 single crochets. And this is bringing the side of our headband back down. This way, when we get to the end, we can hook the 2 together and they fit nicely. All right, so there's the last one. Chain 1 and turn. Now, we've done 2, so we need to do 8 more so that we have 10 rows, just like we did over here. All right, so single crochet in each of the back loops across for 8 more rows so that we have a total of 10 rows with 11 single crochets in each row. I've completed those 10 rows with 11 single crochets in each one. Chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to do another decrease at the beginning and end of each row. And then we're going to have 10 rows of 9, just like we started with. So we'll go in that first back loop and pull up a loop. We'll go in the next one and pull up a loop. Yarn over and go through all 3. So again, we decrease these 2 stitches to 1. 1 single crochet, working in the back loops only, stitching across till we reach those last 2 single crochets. And then we're going to stitch those together. So we'll go in the first back loop, pull up a loop, go in that next one, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 of those loops, chain 1, and turn. So that's our first row with 9 single crochets. So then we'll just repeat. This is kind of stretchy. There we go. 1 single crochet in each of the back loops. And we'll have 9 now because we decreased down to 9. Just like we started with on the other side of the ear warmer. Chain 1 and turn. And then we'll repeat this for 8 more rows so that we'll have a total of 10 rows with 9 single crochets, and again we're stitching in the back loops only. I've completed those last 10 rows, and the way that this should be is 10 rows of 9 single crochets, 10 rows of 11 single crochets, 26 rows of 13 single crochets, 10 rows of 11 single crochets, and 10 rows of 9. So we increased up to make the width of the ear warmer, and then we decreased down. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the 2 ends together. We're going to place the 2 ends of the ear warmer together. And that's why at the beginning I told you we need to keep that chain just a little bit loose so that it easily lines up with the other end of our ear warmer. All right, so now we're going to go through the first stitch on this side and the first stitch on this side and single crochet together. And we'll do this working all the way across our ear warmer. And I would stitch these just a little bit loose so we don't have any puckering going on our ear warmer, because we want it to lay nice and smooth and be able to slip on and off our head without too many issues. All right, so we've stitched those together. I'm going to cut my yarn and tie that off. Now, when you open this, you can see that it looks like it's just part of it. It lays nicely, and so that is the outside of our ear warmer. And so we'll just take our needle and weave those ends to the inside. And we want to really make sure we get those in through the stitches, and we go back and forth a lot because this is going to be worn a lot, especially this time of year when it's really, really cold and snowy. Well, it is where I live anyway. All right, so we're going to weave that in till we're comfortable. It's not going to come out. And then, of course, we have that other tail where we started. And we'll weave that in as well to the inside, going through stitches and fibers of the yarn where possible. In and out, back and forth. All right, and that is our Dreamy ear warmer. It's nice and wide at the top, and it's going to be a little bit wider at our ears, and then as it goes back around the back of our head, it narrows down so that it's nice and comfortable to wear, and you get a really nice, good fit.